Within the past hour, U.S. President Donald Trump has nominated Brett Kavanaugh to the Supreme Court as he seeks to shift the nation's highest court further to the right. The 53-year-old is a conservative federal appeals court judge and a former aide to President George W. Bush. He will need to be approved by the U.S. Senate and faces strong opposition among Democrats. And making his announcement, Trump called Kavanaugh a judge's judge.
Judge Kavanaugh has impeccable credentials, unsurpassed qualifications, and a proven commitment to equal justice under the law. A graduate of Yale College and Yale Law School, Judge Kavanaugh currently teaches at Harvard, Yale, and Georgetown. Throughout legal circles, he is considered a judge's judge, a true thought leader among his peers.
My judicial philosophy is straightforward. A judge must be independent and must interpret the law, not make the law. A judge must interpret statutes as written, and a judge must interpret the Constitution as written, informed by history and tradition and precedent.
All right, for more on this, we have U.S. Republican strategist John Jordan in California and Douglas Sloan, a political analyst with the National Capital Strategy Group. He joins me now from Washington. But Jordan, I want to start with you. What do you think it was about Kavanaugh that tipped the nomination in his favor for Republicans?
Well, it's his experience. He's been on the D.C. Court of Appeals since 2006. He's authored hundreds of opinions, written lots of articles. So it's easy to divine his judicial philosophy. I mean, this, of course, could complicate his confirmation because his record is so extensive that it will require, the Senate Judiciary Committee will want to go through it inch by inch. But basically, it's his experience and his track record as a judge.
Douglas, over to you. What are the main sticking points? Why do you think Democrats will put up a fight against Kavanaugh?
Well, number one, because the Republicans threw a complete roadblock regarding the Supreme Court nomination of Merrick Garland, and they're very concerned about appointing, or rather confirming a conservative justice where a swing justice once sat. So the Democrats are going to fight tooth and nail to try to hold this up as long as possible. And like Mr. Jordan pointed out, Mr. Kavanaugh has over 300 decisions to pour through, and the Democrats have every right to go over each one of those decisions with a fine-tooth comb. This guy also served with Ken Starr doing the investigation of Bill Clinton. So there's a lot in Kavanaugh's background that the Democrats have every right to go through. And
what do you think it is, Jordan, that, I mean, even conservatives were concerned about Kavanaugh?
Well, they were concerned about him for a couple of reasons. I mean, there was one decision where, actually, it was a dissent that he authored where he arguably, and this is a matter of some debate in judicial circles, I myself am a lawyer, that he may have given the roadmap to Chief Justice Roberts on calling Obamacare constitutional and saying that it felt comfortably within the taxing power. There's some conservatives who have interpreted a dissent that he wrote in that way. Moreover, what's surprising is his closeness to the Bush family. President Trump's antipathy towards the Bushes is well known, and the fact that he would select someone so close to the Bushes and so closely associated with them is interesting to those of us who watched President Trump, because this was a little bit surprising.
At the same time, John, this right here is why we saw a lot of Americans vote for Trump.
It is. Nothing galvanizes the Republican base to turn out and vote like judicial appointments, especially the Supreme Court appointments. This is very different from what motivates Democrats to turn out. It's not a good or bad, it just is. So this is going to really fire up the base going into the fall elections, because you're going to be having this final confirmation vote in September, October.
Doug, how do you think Kavanaugh would shape the U.S. Supreme Court?
Well, he could shape it in a number of ways. There are many decisions that could be brought forward to this conservative court, Roe v. Wade being one of them. I believe Justice Kavanaugh had one of his rulings where he ruled against a young immigrant girl being able to get an abortion. He was trying to hold up the process. I think his history illustrates that he is firmly in the camp against a woman's right to choose. So that's just one instance. There are many different cases and controversial issues that can come before this court. Justice Kennedy, I believe, in Lawrence v. Texas in 2003, ruled that the state could not indiscriminately throw homosexuals in jail for having consensual sex. There are many issues regarding gay rights that could come forward during this court in which Kavanaugh could be a very strong opinion and could cast a deciding vote. So we're looking at a lot of different things that have the potential to come forward, affirmative action cases, and so on and so forth. So it's of real concern to Democrats that at least a halfway progressive swing justice be in this seat, in the mold of Justice Kennedy.
There seems to be a lot of talk, too, about the Affordable Care Act as well.
Absolutely. You know, some of the research that I was looking into varies regarding where Kavanaugh might fall on the Affirmative Care Act, the Affordable Care Act. Some of my research that I was looking into, granted, it's just been in the last hour or two of really focusing on one person, shows that, you know, this guy may actually come down against the Affordable Care Act and vote against it if the case were to make it all the way, if everything comes forward to the Supreme Court. So it's really mixed bag. Some conservatives are a little concerned about how he may rule on certain issues, but you know, you just never know what you're going to get with the Supreme Court justice.
All right, John, your response to that, and what are the odds, do you think, that Kavanaugh will be confirmed?
Well, first of all, the odds are pretty high. I mean, they wouldn't have chosen him unless he had been pre-checked with the entire Republican Senate caucus. So I think that his confirmation is pretty much a foregone conclusion. But you never know. With regard to the Affordable Care Act, I've practiced law and studied this issue for several years. And basically, it was found constitutional by a 5-4 majority, with Chief Justice Roberts in the majority, stating that because of the individual mandate was a tax, it fell within one of the enumerated powers of the Constitution and was therefore constitutional. Now, as part of the tax reform effort that passed and was signed into law last December, the individual mandate went away. So presumably, under Sebelius, which was the name of that case, the Affordable Care Act is now unconstitutional in that it is no longer falls within the taxing power of the United States of the Constitution, and it runs afoul of the Commerce Clause.
All right, Doug, I'll give you the last word. Chances of confirmation for Kavanaugh, what kind of a fight do you think the Dems will put up?
The Democrats are going to fight tooth and nail, but basically the only thing they can do is delay the process. Like Mr. Jordan pointed out, it seems to be a foregone conclusion, but again, with Supreme Court nominations, you never know.
All right, Douglas Sloan with the National Capital Strategy Group and John Jordan, U.S. Republican strategist. Thank you, gentlemen, both for being with us.